Hello, my friends. Welcome again to Indian Story Read Along. So today we're going to read a story about King Akbar and his brilliant minister Birbal. We already had an Akbar Birbal story earlier. And for those of you who don't know, Akbar was an ancient Indian emperor. And Birbal was his trusted advisor. He was very, very smart. He loved to help people, and he always did so in a funny or a witty kind of way. And he could always find out by little clues just who was lying and just who was telling the truth in disputes among the townspeople. So this is one such story. It's called the Wicked Kazi. A Kazi back in those days was a judge, kind of a judge or an official who was appointed by the king. And this person was hired to resolve disputes between people. Let's get started. The Wicked Kazi. In the days of Akbar, the people had respect for Kazis, for they were the officials appointed by the emperor to settle disputes. But the Kazi of Delhi was a dishonest man. One day a poor woman came to him. "Sir, please keep this bag in your custody till I return from my pilgrimage." That means keep it in your possession. "It contains 1,000 gold coins." And then the Kazi says, "Have you sealed the bag?" And then she says, "Yes, I have." He says, "When will you be back?" And she says, "I'm leaving for Mecca." Mecca from India is like, I don't know, it's like a 3-hour flight for sure for today, but there were no planes back then. So she's saying it's a long way off. It may take me a year or two to return. So the Kazi says, "I do not like to have anything to do with money, but I do not want to disappoint you either. So leave the bag and go in peace." And the woman has a big smile on her face. 3 years later, the old woman returned. And then she says to him, "Sir, I thank you for keeping my bag in your custody. Now that I am back, please return it to me." The Kazi went in and brought the bag. He says, "Here is your bag. Inspect the seal before you take the bag away." And she says, "It is intact. Thank you, sir." So she says there's no damage, there's nothing wrong with her bag after looking at it. And so the old woman went home. But there, when she opened the bag, good Lord, these are only flat round stones. What happened to my gold coins? Oh my Lord. She came wailing to the Kazi, and they says, "Bibi, I don't know what your bag contained. All I know is that you gave me a sealed bag and you took it back." Look at the look on his poor old lady's face. She is horrified. Horrified. She knows she didn't give him rocks in the bag. She gave him gold coins. The old woman appealed to the emperor, Akbar, for justice. "Jahanpana," that's like saying, "Your Majesty, the bag contained all my savings. I have been cheated by the Kazi." But the Kazi stuck to his statement. "Jahanpana, the woman gave me a sealed bag. When she took it back, the seal was intact. I had no idea what the bag contained." Later, when the emperor was alone with Birbal, Birbal says to the emperor, "Jahanpana, it seems to me that the Kazi tore open the bag, and then had it darned by a clever darner. That means that he had it stitched together by someone who was so good at covering up the seams that you wouldn't even know that it was stitched at all." So now they have a mystery to solve. They have to find out who is the person who darned the bag, who was the person who stitched it. Next morning, as suggested by Birbal, Akbar tore a corner of his bedsheet. And of course, the servants in this palace were going to be sure to find it. At night, when he entered the bedroom again, he brings his servant in front of him and he says, "Why, the sheet has been darned so perfectly that I just can't believe it was ever torn. Who darned it?" The servant explained, Jahanpana, for fear of being punished, I went to the cleverest darner in town. Ah, we're starting to get somewhere now. So they have a clue. Akbar says, bring him to the court tomorrow. When the darner appeared in the court the next day, Akbar says to him, tell me, who else has engaged your services recently? And the darner says, the Kazi Sahab, Jahanpana. Oh, I darned a bag containing stones for him. Caught. This dude is busted. When the Kazi was summoned to the court, he was frightened to see the darner there. Jahanpana, I confess, says the Kazi, I took the gold belonging to this woman. And then Akbar fires him right there. You are herewith dismissed from the job. And then he says, as for your property, whatever is left after paying the old woman will be deposited in the royal treasury. And then the old woman says, Jahanpana, you are just and kind. That means you're very fair and kind. And none of this would have happened without Birbal. This is the interesting thing about these stories. Akbar usually ends up doing the right thing, but he needs that push in the right direction by Birbal. Because he's not able to really figure out all these things on his own. So there's lots of stories just like this, and I'm going to try to read out every story in this book in the coming weeks. So we hope that you'll join us again on Indian Story Read Along, and we hope you will subscribe to this channel. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you soon.